Hello, everyone. Welcome to the second session of day 2. My name is Sarah Woolner, and I work for Zephyr Conferences, who puts on the International Food Bloggers Conference. A little bit about Zephyr, that we are a 4-person team, a little bit small, but we run 5 conferences around the US and even the world. These conferences are in the beer, wine, and food industry. A little bit about IFBC specifically. It was started in 2009 and was the first food blogging conference in the world. What's unique about us is that we travel from location to location, a little different than the system setup that we have today, but we hope that maybe you can join us in the future in one of our next locations. But for the meantime, we have a great session for you this hour. I'm here with Tracie
Fobes.
Fobes. Okay, I just want to make sure I said it right. Tracie Fobes. She will be talking about how to get paid for what you write on your blog. So please welcome Tracie Fobes. Give her a little virtual round of applause. Oh, quickly, if you do have a question for her, please say it in the Ask a Question section at the bottom middle-ish of your screen. I don't want to miss any of your questions. If you put it in the chat, I'll try to grab it, but to make sure that I see your question, please put it in that section below. So please welcome our speaker, Tracie. Take it away.
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm thrilled that I get to be with all of you today, even though it is virtual and we're just talking this way. I am so excited to share something that I am extremely passionate about. Today's chat I call Sponsored Success Incubator, because we're just going to get you started cooking, so to speak, so that you can do sponsored work. Now, before I dig into all the nitty gritty, I want to give you a little bit of information about who I am. So I started blogging in 2009. So I've been around for a little bit. And my first site was called Penny Pension Mom. And I started that site just because I wanted to help people learn how to get out of debt and how to budget and how to save money, because that's what we were doing. I mean, that's probably why you started your blog. You love to cook, or you're passionate about whatever it is you write about. And so I did that, not even knowing I could make money. About a month or two into my journey, I happened upon some information that said, put a banner on your site. I'm like, okay, I'll put a banner. Then in August of 2009, I got my first check. It was $65. I swear, you would have thought I won the lottery. I went running by a husband. I'm like, look, I made money on my blog. I'm sure you all can relate to that feeling when you made your first dollar and you were like, oh my gosh, I'm making money. This is awesome. But then I'm like, wait a minute, if I made $65, I could probably make more. So I started doing research, and I really got into affiliate marketing, and I was using AdSense at the time. And so wasn't making much on ads, but I was still making some ad revenue, and my income started going up. And I remember my goals were to get $500 a month in my first 5 years. Well, I hit that within my first year of blogging from what I was doing. Well, one thing that happened during my second year was I started having some people reaching out to me asking if I would be willing to write about them and they would pay me. And I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. You know, I have to write, I might as well get some money. So I started doing sponsored posts, and I started doing more, and I started getting better at them. And as my traffic and everything grew, so did what I could charge. I got to the point where a simple basic article I was getting 4 figures for. And I did a campaign with Dollar General in the past year, and it was a 5-figure campaign with Dollar General over the course of a year. So that was huge. And through this whole process of learning and growing, I started having people asking me about sponsored posts. And I was like, oh, I'm not here to teach you. I blog on saving money. But as time has gone on, I've had more people ask me to teach them how to blog. So this last summer, I had an offer come in to buy my first site, which I then sold for 6 figures this last year. So I have 100% of my time now to focus on teaching people just like you how to blog. And again, the one thing I want to talk about are those sponsored posts. So I know what I'm doing with sponsored posts because I love them, and they made me really, really good money consistently. A little around $10,000 a month on a kind of a consistent basis on my site before I sold it. So sponsored posts can be really lucrative. So let's dig into this whole thing now that you know who I am. So what is a sponsored post? You've heard that term thrown out around in Facebook groups and blog posts, things like that. So a sponsored post is an article you write on your site that works with a brand. That's really what all it is. So you could have Land O'Lakes Butter could have reached out to you and they want to work with you on your site to write an article about them. So that way they can get the word out. What I really love about sponsored work is several things. First of all, you get content ideas. How many times are you sitting there going, what am I going to do next? What should I create? What should I write about? Well, when you do sponsored work, they're basically telling you what to do. And just having a conversation with Sarah before this began, that in blogging, we don't have a handbook, right? There's no rule book that tells you what to do next. So sometimes it's nice when you get some guidance. And so having a sponsor reach out and tell you what they would like for you to do is huge, because now okay, you want me to make a recipe using your eggs. Great, I can do that, right? So it's so easy to come up with those ideas. Another reason that I love and recommend sponsored posts is that it's easy to make money month after month. So you can get sponsorships each month all year long. Granted, when you start out or even through the process, it may not be that much money, but it's still money, and money is money and it all spends the same, right? So that's another reason I love sponsored posts. But probably the number one reason I love them is because I get paid right away. Now think about that article that you write. You might put some affiliate links and you might have a product you sell. It could be you're hoping to get traffic for your ad network. And that's great. And those are all ways we make money. But to get the affiliate income, they have to click and buy. To get the ad income, you have to get people clicking on the post and reading it so that you get an impression. To get your products to sell, they have to click and buy. Well, the sponsored post pays you the minute you hit the publish button. So there's no having to wait for an action to happen. It's instant income right in your pocket. So that's another reason I absolutely love doing sponsored work. So on my page here. So the first thing we need to do when you're doing sponsored work is we need to start with your elevator pitch. And your elevator pitch is just basically the statement that you would give to somebody if you were riding up in an elevator, for example. It is going to explain who you are, who your reader is, and what you're doing for them. And the reason we need this is a sponsor needs to make sure that your audience connects to theirs. So even a basic product, they're trying to campaign and they're usually targeting specific groups of people at different times of the year. So they want to make sure that whatever their campaign is, that the audience they want to reach, that's exactly who you also reach. So that's what they're looking for. So it starts first with, who are you? And so I would say I'm Tracie and I am a health food recipe blogger. That's basically who I am. Then you want to know, who's my reader? Well, my reader is a busy mom who wants to eat healthy, but she's on a budget. She doesn't have time to cook meals. And so she's not sure what to do. That's my reader. What problem are you solving? Well, I'm finding a way to create affordable meals that are quick and easy to prepare. We'll put all three of those together for an elevator pitch. Hi, my name is Tracie and I'm a healthy food blogger. I help busy moms who are trying to get food on the table on a budget as quickly as possible by helping them use with the recipes I create to help them know how to create a meal their family will love that's not going to cost them a fortune. That's basically your elevator pitch, because you put those three things together. So you always want to make sure that you know your elevator pitch, because when you get emails and things, it's one of the first things you're going to tell them. One thing they're also going to see being asked for in those emails is a media kit. So your media kit, it's basically a resume. That's the simplest way to describe it or to make it understandable in terms that are relatable. So your media kit, it's all about you. You are basically trying to make yourself look absolutely amazing and incredible to potential sponsors, right? So there's a lot of things we want to have in that media kit. The first thing we want to make sure we always put in there is a picture of you. You are your brand. You are the person behind that. So having a picture of your face on the media kit creates an instant connection to your potential sponsor. They're not working with some nameless person, and it kind of helps personalize it. And there's more of that connection that can potentially lead to them wanting to work with you on this campaign and potentially others. You also will include your site name, obviously, right? We want to tell them which website you work for. And so you'll want to have your URL listed as well as your logo and things like that. The colors and feel should blend with your site because you want to make that media kit seem like a continuation from your site, where it's a vibe and a feel that they get from the minute they look at that kit. As they click over to your site, there's some continuity there, all right? You also want to make sure that you include your stats. So your stats are going to be things such as Pinterest followers, Facebook followers, email subscribers, and also your traffic. And the thing I get a lot of times from bloggers is, oh my gosh, my traffic is so abysmal. I can't even think I would want to put that on there. It's so embarrassing. But it's not. Your traffic is going to be one factor in whether a sponsor wants to work with you or not. So don't think that you want to leave that off because you don't think it's good enough. What you're going to do is you're going to average 3 months. So your Facebook followers, you'll take it, you'll do what you are right now. Your Pinterest, you'll do what's right now. Instagram right now. Email subscribers right now. But your traffic, like how many page views am I getting? You're going to average that over 3 months. That way, because there's always that, we always have the ebbs and flows with our traffic, right? So we can kind of have an average as to what we're getting every month over a period of time. So we're going to put that on there. We're also going to put who our reader is, and we're going to define them a little bit more. Our elevator pitch was basic, and on our media kit, we can go a little more in depth. On there, we will also talk a little more about what we do. And again, you can go a little more in depth on your media kit than you can in that simple elevator pitch. Another thing you'll want on there is going to be your brands you've worked with. Now, if you haven't worked with brands, it's okay. You can add them once you work. But once you've worked with brands, by putting the link or the names of those brands or their logos or whatever on that media kit gives you instant credibility and authority. Because they're like, oh my gosh, if she's worked with Target, then she must know what she's doing. So it's that same theory. We want to give ourselves some credibility. You also want to have contact information. I would not put my phone number on here because you don't want people to be calling you. Conversations are okay over the phone as you get to a point through the negotiation process, but you definitely don't want them to cold call you or to share your information with other people in the PR firm and things like that. So keep it email only. That'll save you a lot of headache and a lot of time. So once you have your media kit, one thing I do want to mention, it comes up a lot, is my rates. Should I put that on my media kit? Do not put your rates on your media kit because you don't want that to be what people think you're going to charge. For example, fourth quarter, traffic is big, right? People are online, they're looking for recipes, they're planning the holidays. So a lot of our sites, the traffic will go up over the holiday season. That means your sponsored content is worth more. There's more value. So we want to make sure we can pitch a different rate for the fourth quarter versus the first or the second quarter. So don't put any rates on there. Not only that, but if you have a rate on there and they were planning on maybe offering you more than what you normally get for a post, you just literally undervalued yourself and you sold yourself short. So we don't want to have that happen, okay? So now I want to talk about finding sponsors. And so there's a couple of different things we can do. There are some networks, and that's where I recommend people just getting started go. Sites such as IZEA, IZEA, or Tap Influence are great resources for brand new bloggers. And the reason these are so awesome is that you don't have to go out and try to find sponsors. Sponsors come to you. You will sign up, You will connect analytics, your social, all of those different components of your site to your account. Then sponsors will come into those platforms and they'll be saying, I'm looking for a blogger who can do this, that has this following, or this is their audience, or whatever the requirements are. And then they'll search, they'll find you, put in the offer, and you go from there. The downside to using a network is you don't usually make as much as you can if you work privately with a brand. And that's because the network has to take a cut. So they're getting their percentage of the contract fee, and then you're going to get the other amount. So sometimes the rates aren't quite as much through that, but they're great when you're starting out. One thing I like about like IZEA, for example, is you learn how to do sponsored posts by using them. They walk you through images, links. They make sure your links are properly coded. They publish the content when it's supposed to be. They make sure your disclosures, everything's done for you. So it's a great tool when you're just starting out so that you don't have to worry that you're forgetting important components of putting that sponsored work together. Another thing you can do to find sponsored work is look at your blog or around your house. You know, you cook and you're constantly using ingredients. So why not reach out to some of those brands that you use? You might have a favorite butter. Let's say you love Land O'Lakes and that's the only butter you use for any of your baking recipes. Why not reach out to Land O'Lakes and see if you could work with them? So don't be afraid to think about those brands you can partner with. Like, here's an example I used by using my blog. So my blog was on saving money and getting out of debt. And a lot of my readers were big Dave Ramsey fans. And I knew Dave had an app called Every Dollar. And I had seen it used and I knew it was really good and it could be an excellent resource for my readers. But I didn't have an affiliate link. And I didn't just want to write something for free if I didn't have to. So I reached out to the Dave Ramsey PR firm and told them what I wanted to do, pitched myself, ended up getting a sponsored post from them to use on my site. Excuse me, I wrote, but I was able to work with them and got paid to write about Every Dollar on my site. The article, it still comes up in search, all of this stuff. So they got a lot of value, but I got paid, you know, instead of me waiting for somebody to click a link and sign up for Every Dollar and get paid $1 for them signing up, my money came to me right away. So it was really an awesome partnership. So use that as well. Now, one thing that I see a lot of people happen, and I'm seeing some comments here, and a lot of brands, they like email you or they message you and like, oh, we would like to send you my product for free. We're going to get into pricing for a minute, but the free product is something that I don't think people should blog for. And I'll explain that in a couple of minutes, but you will get emails in your inbox and there's going to be people reaching out that would like to work with you. The one red flag to look for is if they say they need a do follow link, run for the hills. We're going to get into some legal things in just a couple of minutes, but that is a serious red flag and you would never want to work with somebody who does that. You also don't want to work with somebody who wants to pay you 25 or 50 bucks because you're worth a heck of a lot more than that. You also don't want to work with the one who says, I have an article I would like to publish on your site and I'm willing to pay you. Because those people were paid to write some crappy article filled with links to God knows what that you would probably never want on your site, grammatical errors, who knows what you're getting, but they were paid to peddle that article wherever they can. So you don't want to work with them either. Legitimate sponsors are not going to email you and say, I have an article and want to do follow link. They just are not going to do it. Don't be afraid to delete those emails and move on and realize that your site is worth something and you are too, okay? So once you get an email and you're starting this process, a lot of times you'll get a rate. Don't be afraid to negotiate. I think there's this belief that a lot of bloggers are afraid to try to make a counter offer to a price. The thing is, when you get an offer from a sponsor, a lot of times that's their low, right? They know what their range is. They're like, they're willing to go to X dollars. But they're going to try to get you to do it for as little as possible. And that's just good business. So realizing this, when you pitch back, you can add, 25, 30, I've even seen people add 40% to whatever rate they're offering you. They can do is they'll come back And they'll either tell you, no, I won't do it for more than this, or they'll come back and they'll say, yeah, we're willing, but we'll only do this amount. So you can talk back and forth and work through those rates, but don't take that first number as the only number. Don't be afraid to trying to push back a little bit. I mean, they're probably not going to walk away and say, oh my gosh, this person tried to negotiate with me. I never want to work with them. They expect this. So you want to make sure that you are definitely trying to negotiate that rate with them to try to get as much out of them as you possibly can. Okay. One other thing I do like is when it comes to that rate, that might be their base rate, but you can do some add-ons where you can like, oh, you know what? I'll make a video for you too for this much more. Or one of my favorite ones is I will go ahead and do a Facebook ad for you. And I'm going to charge them whatever they want to use in ad spend. And I usually add like 25% for my time in writing that. So for example, if I had a brand and they wanted to do $100 in Facebook ads, I would charge them $125 because I have to write the ad, I have to build it, all of that stuff. So it's not going to be basically everybody's doing the work and all they pay is what goes to Facebook. The cool thing about a Facebook ad is that, yeah, the sponsor gets the benefit, but you get the lasting result because people find your site through those ads. So you're getting new readers who are going to stick around long after that sponsored post. You are getting people to sign up for your list so that they're going to be on your list long after that sponsored post. You are increasing your Facebook following and your engagement, which makes you more appealing to new sponsors. So you get all the benefit out of that Facebook ad in the long run. So don't be afraid to consider the add-ons. And the last thing I want to say is don't be afraid to say no. If a sponsor is flat out refusing to work with you and they are trying to lowball you and they're not willing to work with you, it's okay to say, thank you, but I'm going to pass. Because you do have worth. And I don't want you guys to undersell or undervalue yourselves because that doesn't help you. It only helps them, okay? So, magic question. I know it's the one everybody, it's like the one thing that comes up when I do these presentations. This is like the aha moment. What do I charge and how much can I make? So there's a few things we want to kind of go through here because I want to make sure we charge a fair amount. So we want to make sure everybody starts with what we call your base rate. Your base rate includes you writing the post and putting it on your social accounts. That's it. That's your base. Anything a sponsor wants that is more than that, they have to pay you for. They want a newsletter mention? Pay. They want a video? Pay. Facebook Live? Pay. They're going to pay. One thing some sponsors want is they want exclusivity. You want exclusivity? Guess what? You're going to pay me a heck of a lot of money. They want to take those pictures and use them? You're going to pay me more. So our sponsors' rates start basic and they always go up from there. So when we're figuring that base rate, we consider a few factors. One of them is traffic to your site, obviously, because someone who's getting 10,000 page views a month obviously can't charge as much as someone who gets 1 million. That's just understandable. So we want to look at your traffic. We also want to look at your social accounts and not just numbers. What we're looking at in your social account is your engagement. Because you can have somebody who has 25,000 people following them on Instagram and they're lucky to have a 1% engagement. And someone else who has 15,000 on Instagram and their engagement is like 7 or 8%. A brand would be much more willing to work with that lower number of followers because their engagement is higher. Not only that, you can charge more. Sure, you can still charge if you have 25,000 followers and lower engagement, but you could charge more if your engagement was higher. So we want to take these factors into consideration. So you put these all into a calculator or a spreadsheet to try to figure out exactly what you should charge, since again, it varies for each site. And I give you a base figure though. No blogger should ever charge less than $250. And the reason for that is you've got social following, but you have to write the post. You have to research the keywords. You might have to take pictures. You might have to craft the recipe. You have to do all these things. So if your average post takes you 4 or 5 hours, so let's even say 5 hours, and you charge $250, it's $50 an hour. That's your time. And that's a very reasonable rate for you to work for somebody. So when you look at it that way, it helps you realize your value. But I would never, ever accept anything less than $250. And when it comes to that, one thing I want to touch on is the product. So you get these emails like, oh, we would like to send you product to write for us. Okay. But that product must have a value that is large enough for it to mean something, because you have to pay taxes on that product. Sorry, guys, but you do. So if you got somebody sent you an Instapot, for example, guess what? The Instapot's worth $100. You have to claim $100 value as income on your taxes and pay taxes on that. So now that $100 Instapot is worth 70 bucks. So you've instantly lost income just from that. So you want to make sure that the value of your products and the time for you to do that does cover that $250 threshold. Now, I'm not saying you can't do that. I'm just telling you what I would recommend, because I don't want you, again, to be taken advantage of. So I saw a question here real quick. Is it possible, let's see, Lauren asked a question. So Lauren, I'll help you real quick. I'm glad it's helpful for you, girl. That's awesome. Is it possible to charge if you have a small following, or should you wait until it's larger? You sure can. You just won't get as much. So if you build up your following a little bit, you might get more than that $250. But if you're just trying to get your feet wet, then definitely you can try now. The worst thing a sponsor can say is no. And they aren't saying no, Lauren. They're just saying no, Lauren's blog. Or they're saying nah right now. So definitely go ahead and try that, okay? The charge, somebody asked another question, the base charge $250 minimum. And that's minimum, guys. And that's for somebody who has probably little following, little engagement. Most people are going to be able to charge a lot more than that. And that's what I want to make sure that you do. You charge your worth, okay? All right. So the next thing we want is you want to have something in writing. I recommend a contract. Oh, Lauren, you're welcome, hon. You want to have a contract. A lot of times people just do it by email. I don't like email because I feel like so many things are left out. Like in a contract, I've had brands try to include wording like, yeah, we're going to have a no compete for 60 days, meaning I could not work with or mention another competing brand anywhere on my site. Well, guess what, honey? If you want me to not mention anybody else that can make me money, you're going to pay up. So when that happened on that brand, I reached out and I basically doubled my rate. I'm like, if I can't work with any other brand, then you're going to pay me what I would have made from somebody else. Guess what happened? Next day, I got a contract in my inbox and they took that out because they didn't want to pay me more. But I did not accept that term. So we want to make sure we review those contracts. We want to have it outlined exactly what you have to do, what's expected of you, what they're going to pay you. But one thing I think a lot of people forget is, how long does the post have to be on my site? Does that stay up there for indefinitely, a year or whatnot? And then also what happens if they don't pay? I've had sponsors not pay, and I write into my terms that if you don't pay me within X days, then this post and everything goes down. Sorry, that you're not going to use my site for free. So we want to make sure that we have this in your contract, okay? All right, so next we're going to talk about writing your post. So when you write your post, that's where the fun happens. You're going to review your contract to make sure you cover everything they want. Maybe they want linked to a certain page, or they have a recipe they want featured, or their Facebook page or the Instagram, whatever they want, you want to make sure you include that. And now the one other thing you want to make sure you do is absolutely positively spell the sponsor's name right. There is nothing more embarrassing than when the sponsor sees your sponsored post and like, yeah, we're spelled with IE instead of EI. Oh, it's humiliating. Trust me, I've done it. And it's just, you want to like bury your head in the sand and die because it's so humiliating. So make sure you spell it right. Check for typos. Make sure you have your keywords, all those things. You also have to make sure that your blog post is legally compliant. The FTC, or the Federal Trade Commission, mandates that you have to disclose the relationship between you and the sponsor before the person reads the article. So basically at the top of your article, you need a statement, something like, this is a sponsored post on behalf of Land O'Lakes Butter. I just keep using them because it's on my brain. All opinions are my own. Basically, it's telling the person before they read this, this is a sponsored post. This is an article I was paid to write. You also absolutely have to make sure every link to that sponsor has the code sponsored in it. You guys might be familiar with nofollow, things like that. And we used to use nofollow, but Google came out, when was that? Sometime last year, I can't remember exactly when. that basically they want any links that you're paid to place to have the word sponsored. It applies for your affiliate links, and it also applies for your sponsored post links. So you absolutely have to include that in there. And Google notices. I wrote a post and I worked with Lending Tree, and I had my disclosure and I forgot to add that link to one of my posts, and I got a manual action. And Google's like, this is not right. Well, it was a mistake. So I fixed it. I emailed Google back. I'm like, oh, it was an oversight. I apologize. It's fixed now. They took the manual action down. So you absolutely have to do that. So that's why if a brand or sponsors like, we want do follow links, we don't want you to use that, you need to run, because you are against the terms and service for Google. And so you definitely do not want to use that in any other way. Somebody has a question. What do I mean by sponsored? So when you write a link, you link to something, if it's a paid link, we use the word no follow. No follow basically is telling Google, don't look at this link when you give them a backlink or for link juice or to give them credit, because backlinking is part of how we build authority on Google. Sponsored basically does the same thing. It sends a signal to Google that says, this post was paid, this link is paid. Do not use this link to give this site any credit. It's a signal for Google so that everything's fair, because if everybody could pay for links, can you imagine how the stuff that would rank? You'd have junk ranking on the top of the page because they got more links. So that's why Google doesn't allow it. It's against their terms of service, okay? Once you get the post done, promote on social, you wanna use hashtags, hashtag ad or sponsored for all social. Do not use hashtag spawn, because SPON, nobody knows what that means, right? You need to be very clear and concise. On Facebook, you have to use the branded content tool that basically you'll end up tagging the sponsor and it will say sponsored. And so you have to do that on on Facebook. You also have to do that on Instagram. You have to properly tag the brand to show that it is paid content. But do not forget those hashtags. They're extremely, extremely important, okay? Once your post is done, then you're going to send your invoice. I usually do that within 7 to 10 days. I try to send my invoice to my client, and I allow a little time in case there's some revisions or we missed something or something that needs to be changed. I don't want to invoice them immediately because I need to give them time for review and updates. Then once they've had all their updates, they've reviewed everything and they're happy, then I send my invoice to them. Your invoice needs to include any PO number. Sometimes sponsors have PO numbers that they want to have used. So you want to include that. You want to include your remittance details. So if you want them to pay you with PayPal, you put that there. If you're using Stripe and you accept payments that way, you can also have it get paid to you that way via credit card. But you want to make sure you do send that out to your sponsor. One thing I like to do for my sponsors, and they love it, is I send them a written report. And my written report, it includes links to everything, a link to the post, all the socials. I will put like shares and I'll say, within 7 days, we got this many shares or this many likes or whatnot. They love that because those stats are right in front of them. They can look at that and analyze if that worked or not. I've gotten repeat business from firms simply because of the stats I provide, because it's giving them so much information that's going above and beyond what they expected. The more you can do that, the better the reputation you get in the world, because these people, they jump from firm to firm. And so if you're with one PR firm and that person leaves and goes somewhere else, they're gonna go, oh my gosh, I worked with this blogger when I worked at my last place and they were amazing. And so you could potentially get new sponsorships through a new firm just by being awesome. And that's what we want. The other thing is then you're going to follow up for non-payment. I hate that part of the job, but it does come with it. And basically you're going to have to follow up to make sure you get paid and do your emails that you haven't paid. And then that last email, obviously they haven't paid after the terms that you have agreed that the content comes removed. You will remind that in the terms of the contract and let them know that if it's not paid by this date, the post will be removed, as will all the social shares that I can. Hopefully we don't get to that point, but sadly it has happened. I think in the 10 years I've been doing this, was it like 2 times, I think in 10 years I've had to take a post down. So it is pretty rare, but it does happen, okay? All right, so what I want you to do, I'm gonna give you guys 4 action things to do today, okay? Because you've heard all this information and your brain's like going, oh my gosh, Tracie, you've said so much, I don't even know what to do. I get it, right? Information overload, great information, but where do I go from here? So we're going to do a few things. You have 4 tasks. All right. So the first thing I want you to do, I've got my notes here, is I need you to get active on social. That means you need to start engaging, using hashtags, asking questions, sharing the content your people want to see. The more active you are, the better your engagement. As that engagement increases, you're going to be able to eventually charge more. You're going to be able to find better sponsors, and that's what we want for you. So get active on social, okay? Another thing I want you to do, we need to make sure we know who we're serving. This is part of when you start your site, people talk about who is your audience, who's your person. Because when you're writing recipes, let me give you my healthy food blogger. I'm writing for the mom who's broke and doesn't have time to put food on the table, right? And so my recipes are all budget friendly and quick. It's my person. My person is the mom whose income is stressed, she can't afford to do a lot of things and she doesn't have time to make big meals. That's my blog. That's who I'm serving. If you don't know who you're serving, how will your sponsor? Because your sponsor is looking to connect with a certain audience, a certain type of a person. So you have to have a clearly defined person on your site. If you do not, spend some time thinking about that. That will help you with your elevator pitch and your media kit. It also helps the way that you're developing your content because you know exactly who you are writing for. The message is very clear. The next thing you want to do is create that media kit. You don't have to put on your site. I had one on my site before, but I don't have one on my site now. I kind of keep it private and I only give it when I'm asked. But make your media kit. There are templates all over. I've got an option I'm going to give you guys here at the end of this that can maybe get you some templates. But you want to do your media kit and have that ready to go so that when you start getting these emails, you immediately have an elevator pitch to go back with them as well as your media kit. They're in your arsenal. Now, last thing I want you to do, if you have never done a sponsored post, sign up with IZEA, IZEA.com. It's free to join. They do have a paid one. Don't pay, guys. All right. They're going to try to tell you, oh, if you pay this much a month, you can get more. You seriously don't have to pay. Sign up. When they ask to connect to Google and these different things, 100% safe. I know everybody always worries, okay, they want access to my Facebook and my Google. Should I be doing that? Yes, IZEA is on the up and up, so you're safe to do that. But get set up with that. So that way now you've got your socials going up, your site is what you want, you have your media kit ready to go, and you're getting your toes dipped into sponsored post waters, okay? Thank you, guys. If you guys, I know that we're trying to catch the questions here, so make sure that if you do have the questions, you're also putting them down below and ask a question, because I want to make sure that I have time to answer them. I've got a lot of them, and I love it that you guys are asking questions. So the one last thing I do want to kind of talk about. So sponsored posts, there's a lot to it, guys. Somebody asked about a contract and things. Yes, there's attorneys who have contracts. I have a course where I've taken, this is basically information that's in my course. And I just pulled out a little bit of that to give you guys insight. But my course is called Sponsored Success, and it literally goes through everything. So somebody who's never done a sponsored post before and is clueless, you're going to know what to do. Even if you've done sponsored posts, this is going to help you with pricing, negotiations, contracts, invoicing, all those pieces of your sponsored post. And it's basically everything I have done for the past 10 years. Like literally, like I hold no secrets. And the cool thing is if you ask me a question, I'm not going to like try to skirt the answer. It literally shows you what to do. Like literally click here. There's swipe copy for what to say when you get emails and how to negotiate. You get my sponsored post calculator where you put numbers in and it literally figures everything. You have invoice template. You just fill it out and you have your invoice. It has a contract. We got a discount for everybody, a contract from an attorney. We get you guys a sponsored post contract, all the things you need. And of course, because I love this conference, there's a code and we're going to put all this stuff for you. And you can sign up with it's IFBC 25. I think IFBC 25 is the discount, and that's 25% off. That way, then you guys don't have to pay full price because you're already, trying to figure things out, and life is crazy right now. Nobody should pay full price for anything right now. So that's what I definitely want to do. Oh, yep. They put the link in here for you guys, and I will be double checking that code as soon as they get done to make sure it works. And again, I'm at Tracie at traciefobes.com. If you guys do run into snags, email me. I will take care of you as soon as possible. People are so funny. They're talking about IZEA. So on IZEA, they do have like tweets and things that they don't want to pay much for. But the sponsored rates can get a little higher. If you don't want to try IZEA, go to Tap Influence, TAP Influence. And that's a really good one. And they might pay you a little bit more. But IZEA does a lot of tweets and like social things. And those they do like not want to pay hardly anything on. It's really insulting. And I agree. But definitely, try it and see what you can get. But I've gotten some really good ones through IZEA. So they do pay. And sometimes it's just a matter of finding that perfect connection. So with that, I would love to know the questions you guys have so I can answer them.
Great. I have those for you here. The first question is kind of relevant to the times that we're in now. How has the pandemic affected the sponsored post market?
Oh, that's such a good question. So what we're seeing is a lot of advertisers have reeled back a little bit. Now that we're slowly kind of coming back, we are starting to see a few of them come back. And advertisers are extremely particular about where they're spending their money. So it almost can be an advantage to the blogger because your audience is super, super targeted. When they advertise overall, sometimes they're not hitting the right people, right? But if they know exactly who you are, I talked about that target audience. If you are 100% the person they want, they can pay you less than that big campaign, but still get sometimes more results. So don't shy away from that just because of that. In fact, that can be your selling point, that you have a hyper-targeted audience in this niche and you feel you are the perfect fit. And that might be your in to getting them to want to work with you.
Oh, great tip. Another comment said, I need help with the initial pitch to sponsors. Is there a template that could help?
So I have one inside the course. I have like all these different templates and emails and things as to what you can say to pitch for the first time, to respond to pitches, to negotiate, all of that kind of stuff. But it's basically what you'll say is, hey, I'm Tracie. I run the site ilovemyfood.com, and I help busy moms who are trying to feed their family on a budget in a healthy manner, get those meals on their table quick and easily. Our audience is comprised of, moms in ages, 28 to 35 who are working out of the home and have a median income. I really feel our audience is aligned, and I would love to see if you are open to some sort of collaboration where we can work together to promote our content to a mutually, not exclusive, a mutual audience. Something along that line, just something really basic. Your first email is simple. You don't go into a lot of detail. You aren't going to pitch rates. You aren't going to give them your media kit. They don't need all that stuff. You start pretty simple that, hey, here's your audience. Here's my audience. We're on the same page. Let's work together.
Oh, great. And then after you talk to your sponsor and you figure out a contract for the actual contract, is there a checklist like compensation, non-compete, NDAs? Is there anything else?
That's a really good thing. I should put something like that together for you guys. But yeah, you basically want to have the terms of what you're going to do. You are going to outline the payment and the payment due date. You're going to outline what is what's expected of them after the contract is done, after the post is finished, including how long the post will stay on your site and what you are allowed to do with it after X days. You are also going to want, if there's any type of exclusivity or anything like that in there, that you also want to have what happens if either party fails to complete or to do what is promised. What is going to be that course of action. There are some contract templates online. Again, the attorney I recommend is Miriam. I can't say Miriam's last name, so I apologize, but it's Entrepreneur Legal Corner is her site. And she has a sponsored post contract in there, and she has it in there because I reached out to her when I wrote my course and said, hey, I need a contract. Can you help us make one? And she literally built it so that I had something that I could offer to my students because it's so important. So, but yeah, I would not try to do my own contract because there are too many legal things. I would absolutely pay. One cool thing is like if you buy a sponsored post contract one time, you use the same thing over and over. So it's not like you have to buy one every single time. You'll just modify that wording. And sometimes your sponsor will have a contract. So I've even said, do you have a contract or do you want me to send one? And a lot of my sponsors are like, oh, we have a contract, we'll send over. So you don't even have to worry about coming up with that. You just need to read their contract carefully to make sure they're not going to take advantage of you.
Great. And then we had a question about the legal site that you said.
It's called Entrepreneur Legal Corner is her site.
Okay, great. Thanks. And then do you send the written report after you've received payment?
No, I will send it before, because sometimes it's a little incentive to get them to pay. Like, hey, here's your invoice. And a lot of times I'll send them the same day. Like, here's your invoice. And I've also included a report that has all of the details surrounding the campaign. And that's another thing that is inside that course. If you guys were to get that, I have a sample sponsored post report that you can use, edit, and send out to your sponsors.
Great. And then figuring out how much you're worth.
Yeah.
Calculate engagement. Yeah. How do you do that?
All right. So there's a site called socialbluebook.com. You can use that. It is a paying site. I've also done the analysis and talked to different brands and partners, and that's on my sponsored post calculator that I have. Calculators in the shop for like $15 or something, but you get that as part of the course. It just give it to you for free. And you literally have to like punch in, if you were to punch in your Facebook following number, it literally calculates everything. You put your Pinterest number and a rate in there, it figures a rate. You put in your Instagram, it figures rates. So you literally just have to plug and play a few numbers. But Social Blue Book, it will connect to those for you, and it will give you an idea as well as to what it thinks you can charge. But I don't like it. I feel like it's just one number. It doesn't give you a range, and I don't like how that works.
Great. And then you mentioned $250. Don't get paid less than that. You're worth at least $250. Is that for all sponsored posts? I know sometimes sponsors will sponsor recipes, and those take a lot more time to develop.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. And that, I'm glad you, yes. Yeah. So on a recipe post, I would never charge just $250. I would double that on a recipe post always. But if it's that you're not having to develop a recipe and you're talking about their product, then yes, the $250. But when your time is involved, that is worth something. So kind of a basic, that $50 an hour, if you don't have a huge following, it's a good gauge. And that's kind of where that $250 came from. Is the average post was taking 5 hours. A recipe post could take 7 or 8. So then you would go up accordingly for that.
Okay, great. And when you reach out to sponsors, a lot of times it's an introduction. How do you turn that into getting paid? And I know one attendee mentioned that they've done work for a sponsor for free before, and now they're looking to get paid. How do you make the transition?
That's such a good question. So if you've worked for them for free before, what you can do is just like, hey, we've previously written these couple of posts and we've helped you, and here's the traffic to those posts. Here's some social information on those posts. Love to work with you on another campaign. And this time we can highly target to fit more specific lines with a current campaign you're working on. You can ask if they're working on a campaign, for example, like holidays, such a perfect time. So let's say you worked with, I'll use Land O'Lakes because they're in my brain. You worked with Land O'Lakes several times. And so now it's holiday baking season and you've done a couple of posts with them. So you want to do a series of some holiday baking, butterful recipes. So you can say, here's what we've done before. I would love to work with you on this campaign for the winter. Is there something you have in the pipeline that we could work together on? When you pitch it that way, that are you working on something that we can work on together, that instantly opens the door for paid.
Right.
So you can kind of do it that way, but always get those examples of what you've done in the past. If you're trying to transition from that, even a cold email, you're just basically saying, I think that we could find something that we could collaborate on that would fulfill the needs of both of our audiences, or something like that, or it works together. So along those terms.
Okay. And it's always up for a renegotiation, right?
Yes,
you said
absolutely. Yes.
They're expecting it.
Yeah.
Just reach out.
Yep, absolutely. Don't be afraid to ask.
Great. And then we had another question that said, how many page views per month should I reach before reaching out to brands?
I would try to get yourself up to about 5,000. So that's really not that many, right? 10,000, you're probably gonna have a little more luck, but I've seen 5,000 work for some people. But again, it's not just your page views, it's going to be that social. So they're looking for both components, because anymore, brands before used to not care about social, but now social is huge, and that is what they want. So that's why I said I want you to, work on those page views, makes sense, but you've got to have a decent social following as well.
Okay. Liz mentioned it's great to work with specific brands, but it's difficult to figure out how to reach them and who to reach out to. A lot of them are managed by PR firms, and it's not obvious who to reach out to.
So what I will do is you can tweet them. So tweet, hey, Land O'Lakes, who's your PR firm? And a lot of times they'll tell you. Or you can sometimes search PR firm for fill in the blank. Or you can send an email to their contact, say, I'm trying to reach your PR firm. Or you can go on their site, and a lot of times they'll have PR or in the news or something, and you can sometimes search through that to figure out who you should reach out to.
That's great. We just had a question. Is there a rough percentage of sponsored versus non-sponsored posts? Sometimes, I know I get bombarded with sponsored posts, and sometimes they don't look authentic.
Yes.
And there are some people that I say, wow, that is probably a great product, but they're just advertising all the time to me.
Yeah.
Is there a good ratio?
So when I was doing my other site, I was averaging about 6 to 8 posts a month. I never did 2 sponsored posts a month. So that was like, what, 20, 25%. I would never go above that. So if right now you're only writing 2 posts a month and you want to do sponsors, you're going to want to kind of bump that up a little bit. So you can do 1 sponsored and maybe 2 or 3 non-sponsored posts, because then it's more authentic and genuine.
Okay, good tip. And then you talked about a little following. And you talked about 5,000 views versus 10,000 views on a page, and you've seen people get sponsored for 5,000 views. For social media, what is a little following?
Yeah, so you're looking at about 1,000 people overall is what I would aim for between all of your accounts. Try to get up to 1,000. Again, I have seen a few exceptions where they do the 500, but 1,000, you're probably going to be much more likely for a sponsor to want to take notice, because you look like you're a serious person. If you've gotten up to 1,000 people following you on your social media accounts, you probably know what you're doing.
Great. I have a question too. Have you seen anything, or I've heard a lot about TikTok lately, and that's a whole new social platform. Are there opportunities to get sponsored on these new platforms?
There definitely is. If you are big on TikTok, that's what you would pitch to them. So what I would do is look on TikTok for the brands that are there. Because if that brand is already on TikTok, they recognize that importance of that platform, and they feel they can reach people. So using TikTok to figure out who's there can help you figure out who you might be able to pitch. And that's what you would pitch is, hey, we'd like to do this, and we'd love to do, and you can do just a TikTok thing. You don't even have to do a blog post. So you can definitely pitch even solely on TikTok if you would like as well. But if the brand is there, take advantage of that.
Right. And you said reach out directly on the platform too.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Great.
Absolutely.
One question about IZEA. Is there a contract with IZEA? Can you cancel at any time, start pitching other brands directly?
Yep. There is no contract. There is no exclusivity where you can't pitch on your own. You can quit anytime. Anything you want. Yeah, you are completely free with IZEA to do whatever you want at any time.
Okay. And what was the difference between IZEA versus, you said Tapfluence?
Tapfluence. Tapfluence is probably going to pay you a little better than IZEA. IZEA tends to get a lot of, what I've noticed, they opened up and now they allow you to get paid for tweets. So, and that might be an okay thing, because you can pay like $20 to do a tweet. Okay, woohoo, right? So, but if you don't have much on Twitter, $20 is $20. But it's the sponsored work that sometimes they don't want to pay as much on, I find. And so I always negotiate back, because you can negotiate even on IZEA. So it's like they pitch a rate and you can pitch back and say, no, I want this. Right. And you can set some rates in IZEA, like I don't want to get paid less than this. And then those people won't even reach out to you.
Okay, good to know.
Yep.
Another comment said, if you get a free product and get a paid for the post, I assume you have to add the cost of the product to what you pay, like for tax reasons. that type of thing. Is that correct?
Exactly. Let's say you got a product that was $100 and they also paid you $200 to write. So basically for tax purposes, you earned $300.
Oh, okay. Very cool.
Yeah, but I'm not a CPA and I don't want to be given tax advice. This is what my CPA says. So please check with your CPA and your local rules with taxes and stuff. Because I want somebody to go, well, the gal on that video I watched said that I could do this. Yeah, I don't want to get in trouble for that.
Right. This is your experience. Everyone do their own research as well.
Right, exactly.
Always good. Right. One comment said, I had a copy give me less than the others because of my social media numbers, and I had more engagement than the others, almost triple the engagement of others. They came back and lowballed me. They came back and said that they did lowball them, but it was kind of already late, too late. How do you combat this? First, kind of convince the sponsor that engagement is more important than followers.
So what you'll want to do is when you're pitching that rate, what you can do is you can say, okay, here's my rate, just for reference, I want you to, on Instagram, we have X followers and our average engagement rate happens to be X%, because that is a number they are looking at. And a lot of times they can't see those insights when they're looking at your stats, or they're trying to use third-party programs, which aren't always accurate, because those people are trying to look at things and make its own analysis when the actual stats are going to really give you what you need. So just tell them what you've got and what you offer. Be honest.
Okay, so you recommend doing research before coming to them, kind of already knowing what you're worth.
Exactly. You always need to know your worth on all accounts before you try talking to a sponsor about any sort of rate.
Okay, great. Very great. Well, we're reaching our time now. So I just wanted to thank you for joining us. I'm seeing all the comments. Some great actionable tips. So a great session.
Awesome. It was fun. It was fun. I hope that you guys learned some stuff and that I start hearing about more people who were able to do sponsored posts, because it's so much fun and they're easy to do.
It is so much fun. It's nice to get paid for what you love to do. So
absolutely. Absolutely.
Yep. Thank you everyone for attending. Please write all your comments. Tell Tracie how she did. I will send her the chat log after, so write them all there.
One quick thing, I did just see the coupon code is good through the end of the month. Someone asked how long is that code good for? It's good through June 30th.
Okay. Great. And then I will also send a link to our All Access Pass, which will allow access to the session after we're done. So if you joined us late or wanted to replay it, please feel free to click the link in the chat below. Again, Tracie, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, of course, it was super fun. I mean, I was taking notes as well the whole time. Great information. So
awesome. All right, you guys all have a great day. And again, if you need something, reach out.
Great, thank you.
All right, bye, guys.
Bye. We have 2 more sessions today. Another one starts in 1 hour, and that title is How to Do a Photo Shoot Remotely the Right Way. That's with Christina Peters. And then at 1 p.m. Pacific time or 4 p.m. Eastern time, we have 3 ways to win on Instagram. And that is with Phil. So please join us later. All right. Talk to you later. Bye.